We're recording. We're live. Welcome to the Run Selfie Repeat podcast, where we talk about life with the side of running. My name's Kelly Roberts, and I'm feeling extra. She's just giving everything. Hey, gang. Okay, this is part 2 in a series about a half marathon, how to train and then race a half marathon. If you are watching this on YouTube, I am not wearing the same sweatshirt that I'm normally wearing, the same 3 sweatshirts, because I'm about to go for a run. So it's raining, so I've got a hat, I've got a shell. It's 40 degrees, so here's what I wear. Just a sports bra underneath this shell because I'm a hot girl and I overheat very easily. So I don't wear anything underneath this. Ooh la la. Let's do it. All right. So in part 1 of this series, we talked about how to train for a half marathon, the things that you do, how to adjust a plan, etc., etc., etc. Now we're going to move into how to race a half marathon. Someone on one of our coaching calls this week, an athlete of mine, we were kind of talking about what's next, what's next for her and goals and stuff like that. And we were kind of and I used racing to kind of distinguish pushing a really, really hard effort versus fun running, in a race. And she was like, I guess I've never thought of that. And I'm like, it's not to say that racing is better or worse than fun running or having like a middle of the road type of strategy. It just, when I say racing, I use it to just distinguish the effort level and the strategy behind running a half marathon. Everybody who runs a half marathon is doing something incredibly difficult and incredibly hard. And no one sets out to just kind of like bullshit their way through a half marathon. You can't. It's just too hard, right? I know plenty of people who have done half marathons, myself included, without training for a half marathon, and it was very difficult and got through it, but like that's still hard. Right? How hard you train or not how hard you train doesn't decipher how hard the half marathon is going to be. There is a baseline of incredibly difficult because it's incredibly challenging to run a half marathon. So if you hear me talking about like racing or all out racing, and I don't want you to hear that as more impressive, more important, better, any of those adjectives, right? It's just another way to run 13.1 miles. So, here's the next steps in training. Somewhere inside of training, if you are thinking about racing to chase down an outcome time goal, there will be an opportunity for you to check in and start to decipher what you might be capable of. Now, it doesn't matter if you from the get-go were training for something super specific. Any training plan will prep you to run the distance, right? And whether or not you're doing the speed play or the strategic parts of the workouts or not, it helps get a little bit more specific. But if you're not doing that work, you can still race, right? So if you are doing a plan with time trials or opportunities to check in with your fitness, that does help you get a sense of where you're at and what you're capable of. I like to give all of my athletes, just to help them get short-term goals, 5K time trials, mile time trials, 10K time trials, depending on the training plan. One, it's a really good way to check in on fitness level. So an opportunity to go all out, see what's going on upstairs, right? Like what are the what are the dodgeballs that are being hurled inside of your brain, that kind of thing. But also, if you are able to make a plan and execute, we get a sense of of where your fitness is at and what you might be capable of on race day. There are things like on your Garmin or stuff like that. You can go to VDOT to predict what your fitness level is at, right? If we were to go to the VDOT calculator right now and use my mile time trial that I did this week to predict what it thinks I could run a half marathon at, I just want to do this because I feel like this is a good example. So I think I did 7 minutes, 22 seconds. All right. So for 1 mile, it predicts the equivalent of a half marathon for me is 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 43 seconds. So about an 8-minute, 45-second pace. Now, here's why I want to use this specific example. I cannot tomorrow go out and do that. No, that's not predicting the future. I am a running coach. I know my fitness level. And right now, I can't do that at all. I can't. I could if someone was like, here's a million. If you could do it, if you do it, there's $1 million on the line. I bet I could get myself to black out and possibly even run faster than that. But just by myself to motivate myself to go run an 8:54 pace, I don't think I could do it tomorrow. Do I think I could do it in a month or 2 months? Actually, possibly, right? If I keep training the way I've been training and I keep building the way I've been building, I do think that's kind of sort of within the realm of possibility. But tomorrow, probably not, right? So that predictor is kind of right, but also it depends on where you're at. If I were where I was at after the 5 weeks of we just finished our first training experience of the year with the Badass Lady Game, they get faster, stronger training experience. And if I were to do the plan as prescribed, my long run would only be up to like 80 or 90 minutes, maybe 60 minutes. I am training for something else. So I did a modified plan. So my long run is up to 2 hours. So I could theoretically run a half marathon and kind of bang it out. So you have to understand where you're at. But if the normal person who did that training experience at a mile time trial and did 7:22, and this predicted that for them, and their long run's only up to 90 minutes, that's a bit of a jump, right? Anyways, I know that may not make the most sense, but it does give you a sense of what you could do. And if we were to do a time trial in a 12-week plan with me, right? We wouldn't be doing your time trial the week before the race. We would probably have 6 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 2 months to go. So there would still be a significant amount of work ahead of us, enough to get an idea of where you're at right now and what might be possible. But that's where that's where I would go. So for me, if I wanted to all out race a half marathon in, let's just say I wanted to all out race a half marathon based on where I'm at right now in 6 weeks, I do think I could do what VDOT predicts I could do, which is 1 hour 54 minutes. I think I actually might even be, nope, I think that's really hard. I think I could do that, but that would require best case scenario. That would require, when we talk about A goals are the cards lie down in your favor. There is a huge piece of luck involved. The weather needs to be wonderful. I need to be, I mean, if I'm in the high hormone phase of my cycle, I need to be mindful of taking in more carbs. I need to be feeling good. I need to be recovered. It's just like sometimes there is a degree of luck involved with all this stuff, even though you train really hard. So the beauty of a half marathon versus a marathon is a marathon destroys your body, right? It is like getting hit by a bus. So you'll probably spend 16, 20 plus weeks training for this goal. And if things go sideways and you don't get the day you wanted, it's really, really hot. You just feel like shit, whatever. You don't really get to try again, right? For another 6 months, maybe a year. You can run back-to-back marathons, but it's really hard on your body. Like really hard on your body, even though it may not feel like it. And everyone's different. Some people's bodies genuinely are built different. If you hear wildness, it is my cats. My cats are going absolutely wild. Are you feeling feral? You feral girl? That's Gladys. She my feral girl. She's looking at me wild-eyed. She's like, "Mom, I'm feeling wild." And I'm like, "Girl, I know. I see it. You guys are tearing around this apartment." There's Phoebe's tail. Are you feeling feral, Phoebes? Are you gonna go attack your sister right now? Oh, these cats. I feel so bad for my downstairs neighbors. I know they're teeny tiny and they're like 5 pounds. Oop, there they go. But it is what it is. Anyways, back to it. What was I saying? Oh, I was talking about marathons versus half marathons. If your half marathon goes sideways, you kind of can try again in a month. You kind of can try again in 2 months or 3 months. Like you can run multiple half marathons and not destroy your body. That doesn't mean don't run all the half marathons in the world and don't constantly race, but you do have a little bit of wiggle room should things that are outside of your control kind of stop you from that perfect, I'm going to use those in quotes because perfect doesn't exist, but that ideal day, right? So, how do you set the goal? You check in with your fitness level if you want to all out race. You check in with what you're capable of. Maybe you do some time trials. Maybe you actually run some races. You do a 5K or a 10 miler or something like that. You check in with what you can do. You check in with the mental dodgeballs that are being hurled at you by yourself, just like millions of versions of you just slamming you with dodgeballs. Like, no, no, that kind of thing. So you check in, right? If you are in a position where you're running your first half marathon and you are just in that place of, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do this. This is so hard. This is so hard. This is so hard. live in that space. It is totally a-okay to say, I don't know if I can do this. This is really hard and I feel really, really, really intimidated with whether or not I can do this, right? And then I just want you to move on, right? Like think of that platitude, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right, right? We don't know. You will never know until you try. The only way you can fail is if you just fail to try and give it your best. So right now, the only goal right now is not to get 4 weeks ahead of yourself or 6 weeks or 12 weeks ahead of yourself. It's just to be in this week right here. What's going on this week? What can you focus on this week to give yourself your personal best? Training isn't over, right? And if you're sitting there going, well, training is over, the race is this weekend, don't worry about it, right? And if you're looking at your coin jar and you're like, well, Kelly, I don't even have enough money to get it through the gates, right? When we talked about that analogy of saving money and having X amount of dollars to get through the gates, you can get places without enough money. How many times have you seen people ask for help and get and been given it, right? You can show up to the gates and turn to the people next to you and say, I don't have enough money. Can anyone spot me $5? Can anyone spot me $1? Can anyone spot me $20? Right? I know the analogy is a stretch, but these races are all heart. They are all heart. And if you just focus on putting one foot in front of the other, regardless of how prepared you are, you're going to get to that finish line. It may not be pretty. It may not be this like blink and you're done kind of a day. You might have to work every single second to make the decision not to suffer, but you absolutely can crush your day if your training didn't go the way you want it to go, right? It's all heart. And remember that. Yes. So that's goal setting. That's kind of where you're at. That's how you set your goal. It is so much easier to have a coach or someone who knows what they're doing, obviously, to help you and guide you, but that's kind of sort of the way that it goes. Next, we want to start practicing in what you're going to race in on race day. Now, you are talking to the queen of everything new on race day. If I had $1 for every time I ran a race in a completely new outfit or a brand new sports bra or brand new shoes, I would have a million billion bucks. Half of that is because it's my job. I work with brands and brands are notorious for slapping new things out and saying like, you don't have to wear this, but we'd really like it, and you're like, well, I want to make you happy. You're paying my bills. So that's half of it. And then half of it is you just want to look fly. You want to look good on race day. At least I do. I want those photos to shine. I know that's vain and I know that's horrible, but I'm being so truthful with you right now. That's what I want. And it's come back to bite me in the ass many a time, and then other times it's been totally fine. I would say the rule of thumb is nothing new on race day. Practice in everything from the socks to what you're going to eat to what you're going to drink to the hat you're going to wear if you're going to wear a hat to the buff you're going to wear if you're going to wear a buff to the shell you're going to run in to the sports bra to the chafe cream to the leggings, all the things, whether you're going to wear underwear or not going to wear underwear, all the things. Practice in it at least once or twice, if not more than that. If you can do your long runs in all of the things, ideal. If you plan on running in super shoes are these new carbon plated shoes that do make you run faster. But the thing I would say, I'm a firm believer that no one who's running slower than like a 9 or 10 minute pace should run in super shoes. I just think that our gaits aren't super they're really just not made for us and our gaits. And you're putting yourself at risk for an injury because it's going to change your gait. And if you don't have a super efficient stride, you are going to be miserable in those shoes. Now, I will also say that we've come such a long way with super shoes, and we do have a lot more comfortable shoes with a lot more foam involved. So I actually almost want to take what I just said back. I take it with a grain of salt because there are definitely shoes out there that are actually super shoes that are created for the slower runners who don't have the really strong knee drive and really, really fast turnover. So if you have found a pair of super shoes that you really love to run in and they don't hurt your feet, they don't give you, plantar fasciitis, and you've done your longest long runs in them and they actually really work for you, go for it. 100% fine. I'm not even going to worry about it. You are crushing it. Go, girl. Go. You go. I still stand by super shoes are kind of rolling the dice with Dangerville. But that's just me. I know that there's a lot more shoes out there that I have not run in they're getting better and better and better every single 6 months. So take what I just said with a grain of salt. I kind of want to just straight up take it back. I take it back. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me on the super shoes, but do listen to me when I say figure out your race day outfit. Now, I know it can be hard to figure out your race day outfit if conditions can be wildly different than they are during training, right? It might be really, really hot and it's the middle of winter. It might be cold and it's the middle of summer. So I know it's a little bit difficult, but try your best to figure out at least like at the base what you're going to be wearing and that you're comfortable in what you're going to be wearing. And if you are wearing new things, you better put shave cream everywhere in every single nook and cranny in your body. If you love it, lube it. That is something I will live by. I'm also a big believer in putting KT tape or athletic tape on your bra line where the seams are on your bra line, and then maybe right here helps with chafing if you're wearing a bra that you don't necessarily trust. All right, so we talked a little bit about nutrition and hydration in the last call. Now it's time to execute, right? So some of the things to think about is one, conditions. If you know it's going to be significantly hotter than your training, you want to up your hydration a little bit. You want to make sure that those maybe the solution's a little bit more concentrated that you're drinking. If you're going to be drinking what's out there on the course, you need to be so tuned into how much you're drinking, right? You're not just grabbing one cup with like the littlest bit in there, because you have to remember that almost every cup is going to be filled by a volunteer who maybe has worked a race before, but probably doesn't know anything about running. That sometimes those mixes can be absolutely vile. I volunteered a triathlon here in New York City last fall, and I wasn't in charge of mixing the sports drink. They had already done that by the time we showed up, and we're like filling it up with cups, and it looks super diluted. And I'm kind of looking at it like, should I say something? And I finally, like towards the middle of the race, we're literally handing out cups. I drank one and it tasted like absolute, it made me gag. It was horrible. It was like there was no sports drink in it. And I was like, yo, we need to pour all this out and remix. We need much stronger of a concentration. And whatever happened with the water tastes like absolute garbage. So reset and redo. So be careful out there. Be mindful of what you're getting for what. I would say at almost every table, grab one sports drink and one water. And you want to, if you're all out racing and you're being mindful of time, you want to grab a cup. You want to like, I wish I had a cup next to me. I'm going to use my toe spacers as an example. These are toe spacers, something every single runner should have. You just wear them around your house. They're really good for toe health. But you're going to grab your cup. You're going to fold it like a little taco. And then you're going to go and you're going to drink like that, and you're going to funnel it into your mouth. And then you drink your sports drink. Maybe you take a sip. Maybe you drink the whole thing. Maybe if it's exceptionally hot, you grab 2 sports drink cups and you drink both. And then I like to wash my mouth out with water. I don't always drink the water, but I do at least like wash my mouth out with the water, because especially if I'm grabbing cups that are like super hydrated or super concentrated, I don't like having that taste in my mouth. So I'll just wash it out and spit. Sometimes I'll just take a sip of water as well. So everyone's different, but we practice with your hydration strategy. If you know you're an above average sweater, you need to be taking in fluid. If you have friends and family who are coming to the race, can they hand you off a bottle, right? A bottle of the mix that you like to do. A lot of races will not allow you to run with a hydration pack. You're fine with the pack, but they say no bladders. It's the dumbest thing in the entire world. I'm not going to tell you this. If you're on the team, you know what I'm going to say. But you can have your own handheld. You can do all this other stuff. I always recommend racing with your own fluid and stuff like that. In terms of what you're taking in, you want to remember that if you are racing, you are going to run a little bit hotter. You're going to burn a little bit hotter than you would on a normal run. So we might want to adjust what your fueling strategy is a tiny bit. Caffeine is super helpful. It is helpful to like bring alertness to what you're doing, give you a little bit of energy, a little bit more directness in your pursuit of your personal best. So, in terms of a half marathon, when do you take caffeine? If you wanted to take something like caffeine gels, caffeine chews, things like that, I would say around the 8 mile mark is always good for 8 or 10 is always good for caffeine. And then maybe with 20 minutes left, either half of a gel, some chews, or a little bit more, just to give you a little bit of a jolt for that final kick. But have your plan figured out, know what you're doing, and stick to it. Do not deviate from the plan. Do not miss the plan. It is really important that you are constantly staying on top of it. It is one of the things that's inside of your control, right? Your nutrition is really important to helping you plan for success. In terms of like what you take, it's always best to take the real food if you are someone who's doing rice cakes or protein bars or like any sort of real food, to do the real food in the first half of the race, and then the quicker hits of sugar, the faster digesting carb sources in the second half of the race. So food for thought. Get it? Because we're talking fueling. Race strategy. So let's talk about pacing. So I always like to tell my athletes there's kind of like 3 different ways that you can race. There's like all out racing, there's middle of the road racing where you have half fun running and half pushing it. And then there's best day ever, the best time is having the best time. So those are kind of like the 3 ways that you can kind of pace. Let's talk about the first one. So you kind of want to hold back until mile 8, right? You want to hold back and not push it over that threshold area. You want to make sure that you're not building lactate too early. You want to make sure that you're holding back a little bit. Mile 8 is normally about where you start to flip, and that's kind of where the race really begins and gets really tactical. But that doesn't mean that you're fun running and conversational pace running through mile 8. I always say miles 1 and 2 are throwaway miles. You should just be running slower than you think you should be going, right? They should be run painfully slow, at least mile 1 for sure. If you've never ran a race before, through mile 2 should be comfortable ish, just like a hair above your everyday conversational pace, but something that you know you could fun run the entire race at if you wanted to. From 2 to 8, that's where you start to work. You get towards goal pace and you kind of just stay maybe a little bit behind it, maybe touching it, things like that. And then once you hit 8 and you go over that, you're going to go past goal pace and you're going to start just like ticking off time every single half mile. You're going to be getting faster and faster and faster. And then when you get to that last mile, you want to run the fastest mile of your life if you can do it, right? That's where you want to just let it rip. Whatever you have left, let it go. And then final 0.1 push is all out sprint. Things like that. That's one way that you can race that's a little bit specific, and you can start to play with that to figure out, okay, that's too big of a drastic shift in pacing. I don't race well like that. I want to try maybe like the first mile slower than I think I should go, hit goal pace and see if I can't hold goal pace the entire race, and then maybe get a little bit faster for the last mile, right? Some people are like that. Some people are going to do like negatives, like a baby negative split where they're going to go just below, like let's say goal pace was a 9-minute mile you're trying to break 2. You might run 9:05, 9:10 through mile 8ish, and then from there on you're going to go to like 9 and then 8:50, right? Or maybe 8:55, something like that, where there's maybe a 5-second variant. So it's a negative split, but a baby negative split. Some people just run straight miles the entire time. You know, you want to break 2, you're going to run 8:59 or 8:50 the entire way, right? That's just your plan. That's what you're going to do. Everyone's different. Also, the course is different. It depends on whether or not it's a super hilly course, a pancake flat course, if there's hills in the front half and not in the back half, things like that. Things to think about on hillier courses is effort level. Throw your pace out the window and run off of effort level. You should know by now the effort levels that you're trying to hit, and you want to maintain effort level up the hill, and then you want to lean into the hill and push the downhill. And then once you come out of that downhill, catch your breath. Don't catch your breath at the top of the hill. You want to catch your breath coming through the bottom of the downhill. But work on your mindset during training. If you're running a hilly race, you should be running hills in training, right? Not just hill repeats on speed days, but like running hillier routes throughout training. And every time you come onto a hill, I just want you to think like, bring it, or like, I'm going to make this hill my bitch, or something silly, something to make you laugh, right? The next way to really like pace your day is to like find the best of both worlds. Maybe you're going to run comfortable through 8 and then you're going to push it from there. Maybe you're going to run comfortable through 6 and then you're going to push it from there. To find your strategy and then get specific. The other way is to slow, strong, steady, party pace it up the entire way, and that is hell yeah, so much fun. If you're someone who only races, go party pace a race. Remind yourself what it's like to do all the things and to find balance and to really enjoy what it's like to thrive in a race environment and to just like lean into the race environment and have fun. Does that make sense? I know that's like the vaguest pacing strategy in the entire world, but it is what it is. Tapering. So tapering is something that's going to happen in the 2 to possibly 3 weeks before your half marathon. Normally it's a 2-week taper. the taper doesn't always feel like the biggest taper for half marathons. You're not slamming on the brakes, you're just easing off the gas. So you're going to have your peak week, and then there's going to be a reduction in miles and intensity the next week, and then the next week is race week, and you're not slamming on the brakes. So you're still going to have speed work, right? It's just fine-tuning stuff. It's not going to be something that's going to kill you. A lot of my athletes don't like to do their speed work the week of. They think I need to rest, 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 rest. No, you want to fine tune. You want to keep going. You want to keep things sharp, but we're not like going for broke and leaving you laying flat on the ground, right? That's tapering. Tapering is a week where you really want to focus on getting like refueling, rehydrating, getting ready to race. You want to try to get your sleep. You want to foam roll, get a massage, all that good stuff. Pre-race routine, this is really important. Grab a pen and paper and write down what's happening in like the 3 or 4 days leading up to the race, including when you're eating what. This is really important if you're traveling because it is very, very, very easy to get carried away and to go 6 hours without eating because you don't know where the where local things are and you're doing things. So make your plan and don't be afraid to be selfish. If you're traveling with family and friends, don't be afraid to say like, "Hey, I need to stay off my feet today. I'm going to back out of the shopping or this, that, or the other." Be selfish and tell everyone you need to be selfish. But know when you're going to the expo or wherever you need to go to pick up your bib, which is like that piece of paper that you're going to put on your shirt. Know when you're going to be eating lunch or snacks, right? When we talk about racing, a lot of people talk about carb loading, which is important. It's important to make sure that you're getting, delicious, nutritious foods that are going to max out your glycogen stores. But that happens like the 2 days and the day before, but not the night before. The night before should be a comfortable meal. You don't want to get Thanksgiving full. You don't want to go ham. You kind of want to think like 2 days before the race. If the race is on Saturday, Thursday, you should have a really, really good lunch and a really good dinner, like big, filling, carby meals, like things with bread or white rice or things like that. And then breakfast is really important the day before your race, and lunch is really important. And then dinner should be comfortable. Morning of your race, you know exactly what you're going to be eating because hopefully you practice with whatever you're going to be eating on race day during training. So you have it you have the night before and the morning of done. They work well with you. I am someone who I don't have a sensitive stomach, but I also something's changed the last 5 years. So I am now someone who won't race without taking Pepto-Bismol just to check all the boxes. So highly recommend. I also highly recommend bringing Tums with you, having those just in case your hydration's off. You can pop one of those and help. It just has a lot of the minerals and things that help with hydration and electrolytes and stuff. But that's really helpful. It's okay if you don't get a ton of sleep the night before your race. If you're nervous, totally fine. Try to make sure you're getting enough sleep 3 nights, 2 nights before the race so that the night before the race, if you're up all night tossing and turning and freaking out, it's okay because you're rested. You're fine. Oh my gosh. The race itself, know what time you're getting to the race, know what time you're going to the bathroom. Make sure that you're aware of what time you need to be there, but that you're not there too early, right? If you're in corral 4 of the Chicago Marathon, you're not getting there right when the gates open. Things like that for those huge, huge, huge races. I know we're talking about half marathons, but that's always a good example. If you are doing a race that right when it says the gates open, you want to find a happy balance between having enough time to go to the bathroom and get to your corral and not standing around for a ton of time. Make sure that you do a warm up before you start. Sometimes if you're really, really racing, it helps to do a jogging warm up to like go run for 10 minutes and then do your dynamic warm up. But you absolutely do not need to run before the race. If you're doing the B or the C versions of the race where you're finding a happy medium, these cats are going wild. or if you are just party pacing it up and having the best time. I don't mean to say just, I hate that I said that. Post race, you want to make sure that you're reaching for that sports drink, that you're reaching for something with protein within that 20-minute window. You're starting to rehydrate, no chugging. You want to sip, 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 and then try within an hour to get a meal. Start to replenish all the stores and give your body all the building blocks it needs to start to recover, because the faster you can do that, the faster you're going to feel so much better. You can theoretically run the next day, right? I like to tell all my athletes to take like 2 or 3 days off of running, maybe even a week. You can go for a run, but run how you want to, when you want to, because you want to. Take a little break, give your body a break, foam roll, get a massage, all that good stuff. That's just like, let your body heal. Don't jump right back into it. You're not going to lose a ton of fitness if you take a break. And then you just want to check in, right? I always like my athletes to kind of like write themselves a little letter before the half and then check in immediately after and assess like what worked, what didn't work, how was my strategy, how was my head, quickly bam, 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 right? Like you can press the little, if you have an iPhone, open the notes app, press the microphone and just talk and let it dictate what you're saying. And then you can come back to it later. But get all your thoughts out as soon as possible so that you can go back to them and figure out, okay, this went well, this worked, this I want to keep playing with, this didn't work as well, I struggled here, this, that, and the other. It's always an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. But if you're not doing that work and taking that step, you don't know what needs improvement, right? Be specific if you can. It's really helpful. And then you can do better next time, because that's the entire point, right? Like we're always trying to grow. We're always trying to get better. We're always trying to get fuller and have better experiences and execute better when you're trying to be specific. But that's kind of it. That is everything that goes into racing a half marathon. Was that a lot? I feel like I just talked a million miles an hour. If you are running a May or June 2024 half marathon, 13.1, we have a training experience coming up. You can come train with the Badass Lady Gang. Our training team gets access to all of our training experiences. But if you don't want to become a member of the team, maybe you want to see what we're all about first, or you just don't want to spend that kind of money, you can participate in one of our training experiences. You kind of get all the resources the team has, but you only get one coaching call, which is on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And they're really fun. Our training experiences are a great time. But if that's not up your alley, you can just get one of our running plans, right? You can just get a running plan and it goes on your schedule and you're off to the races and you're kind of, you just do your thing, you know? Look at this cat digging in a fake plant. I know that some of you are listening to this and can't see this, but that's my Gladys. That's my Gladdy girl. All right. That's all. That's all I got. I hope this helped. Kick ass. Take names. I'll see you out there.